It's here. Just give me a minute, please.
Mayor. Mayor, this is Mark Legben.
Go ahead.
I just like to add a word or two. I wasn't trying to circumvent anybody. I just, with all the phone calls and all the emails and text I received, I thought it was obvious that this is something that we needed to create. And that's why I brought it forward right away, so we could get the Citizens Advisory Board taken care of, and so we can appease everybody.
I mean, this has been going on for years. This isn't anything new.
Pat, did you find anything?
I'm sorry, Mayor. It's here. I just got to find it. Because it's stuck in my mind. And I didn't really look it up prior to the meeting, only because I thought that was an understanding that all the parties had. But give me a minute and I'll find it.
Mayor, may I offer a suggestion?
Mayor Getchman, if I may.
Let's right now, Councilman Ellis still has the floor with his question. And the next hand is Councilman Yerger. And the next hand is Councilman Jensen. So Pat, while you're looking, we're all sitting here in silence, and there's a lot of questions starting to come up. So
Mayor Getchman, I believe I can make this a moot point.
Councilman Jensen.
under the rules of conduct, there is also language to where you can, under a privileged motion, you can go back and reconsider the previous question. And I would like to make that motion. It certainly was not my intention to not allow public to be able to speak.
Certainly somebody else could make that motion, but unfortunately, Mr. Jensen can't because he abstained, so he wasn't on the prevailing side. Sorry, Mr. Jensen.
Councilmember Jacobus.
I would make a motion to set aside the first motion of the evening, which combined the two. We've already voted on number 5, but I'd like to go back and entertain a motion to allow discussion and receipt of citizens' complaints regarding DCHS.
Please keep your comments and clapping in the council chambers to yourself. Councilmember Yerger.
I will second Councilmember Jacobus's motion.
Cast your votes.
Leg band?
Yes, I'll let the people speak.
Jacobus?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Yerger?
Yes.
Bechtel?
Yes.
Coons?
Yes.
Ellis?
Yes.
McLean?
Yeah.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
So item 4, council members Ellis, Jacobus, Jensen, Yerger, item receive and discuss citizen complaints regarding the Dodge County Humane Society and its services it is required to provide under Citizens Animal Control Contract. We'll start with Councilman Ellis, Jacobus, Jensen, and Yerger, and then we'll go to public comment.
We came together to build this resolution in order that we can give the ability for the citizens to be heard and to create a citizens advisory board. And I'm glad to see it has been approved. And so I'm really looking forward to just hearing this citizens discussion on this matter.
Councilmember Jacobus.
This was brought forth due to a series of unfortunate events that have been repeatedly occurring over the past several years. And for whatever reason, this has failed to come to the table in front of the council. And we failed to have a majority decision to go ahead and have consideration of. So since some of us have been involved with this for many years, Mr. Coons inclusive, had been on prior council, and myself, having been on here now, this is my 4th year. We have had repeated input from the public about concerns, and some discussions have been lightly had and never really delved into. So I appreciate the fact that we have citizens who have pushed and come forth, and not just a few, but by the hundreds and even over 1,000 have made concerns known. And I expect that as this unfolds and we have our citizen advisory board come together, that they will be objective, as we will all ask them to be, and to consider all aspects, and that any of the individuals asked to be on the citizen advisory board will remain objective and stick to the topic at hand, and that is merely to discuss whether or not everything is in compliance with the contract the city now holds with Dodge County Humane Society.
Councilmember Yerger.
Yes, I just would like to say thank you to Councilmember Jensen for putting us back on track and for Councilmember Legband to yield back an opportunity to speak. I would just like to say this with regards to the material and the fact that the public needs an opportunity to speak tonight. And that is, there were several experiences and stories with regards to their personal experiences that were not included in the original council packet material that was disseminated due to some discussions with the city attorney. Some of those made them back into the packet eventually, others did not, which makes it paramount that the public have an opportunity to speak to this matter directly tonight. So in fact, if those that weren't part of the packet material have stories to tell, they at least had an opportunity to tell them tonight. So I'm glad that this got opened back up to the public so that they could be heard.
Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Councilmember Yerger. I just wanted to put back out forth, I will be abstaining from any vote on the DCHS, but it was not my intention that we not be allowed to speak to the public. I would just ask the public to be very, very careful what you say and don't open yourself up for any civil legal action. Be very careful what you're saying. What you're saying can't just be true. You have to be able to prove that it's true.
At this time, we're going to open it up. I will echo what Councilmember Jensen just stated is we need to keep it on topic in regards to the animal control contract between the city and Dodge County Humane Society. The city of Fremont has no control of board duties, day-to-day duties of the Dodge County Humane Society, nor do we hire or fire. They're a vendor of the city of Fremont, and we pay them a monthly fee to provide animal control. And that's where the contract lies today. And we need to stay very, very in your comments in regards to Dodge County Humane Society, keep it to the contract. With that, we'll open it up first and we'll take care of those that are in the council chambers. You'll have 3 minutes because we've got a lot to get through. There's 143 attendees as well. So you'll have 3 minutes and please, again, keep it to the contract itself.
Good evening. My name is Lance Clark. That's right. Good evening. My name is Lance Clark, L-E-N-C-E-C-L-A-R-K. I live at 1249 North Clarkson here in Fremont. Some of this might be moved just because of the fact that the resolution is already passed. However, I am going to read it in its entirety if I could. The reason I'm here tonight is just to ask the City Council to open an investigation into the Dodge County Humane Society. I feel the City of Fremont is not being portrayed by an entity that truly represents the high standards of Fremont. Over the past years, there have been many complaints pertaining to the facility and more specifically the director of the Humane Society. Citizens feel it is time the city takes action to determine the reasons for so many complaints and to write a contract with an entity that will truly represent the character of Fremont. I've had very little personal contact with the Humane Society in many years until just recently when my son's dog was wrongly confiscated and held from him over a dispute in which the Humane Society claimed the dog, Bessie, was spayed. Yet in fact, she was not. It led to a very long weekend in which several citizens gathered inside the facility peacefully on Saturday, April 25th. At that time, we spoke with the president and vice president of the Humane Society Board of Directors, who both promised us the family would receive the dog back safely on Monday, April 27th. When Monday arrived, I was in constant contact with the president of the board because of multiple disturbing pieces of information that were being shared with me about the situation from numerous sources. I was finally told my son and daughter-in-law could go to the Humane Society to pick up Bessie at 3 p.m. that afternoon. When we arrived at the Humane Society, there were already several citizens there to welcome Bessie home. However, Austin and Jesse were met in the parking lot by the director, who was raising her voice, waving her arms at the people, saying she was not releasing the dog until everyone left. Not a single person was on the Humane Society property, nor were they being disrupted at that time. She was just not going to let the dog go. I had to message and call the president of the board in order for her to contact the facility and finally persuade the director to release Bessie 45 minutes later. At one time on Monday, I actually had gotten a message from the president of the board of directors from the Humane Society saying she, meaning the director, is doing her best for Bessie today. I question this statement for the simple fact that if she wanted to do what was best for Bessie, why was she in a kennel instead of home with a loving family that has given her spa treatments, for crying out loud? And why was it a matter that people needed
to leave before the dog could be released? What did it matter that people were there to welcome this dog back to her family? Humane societies should be humane. With all the accounts of poor treatment to animals and humans alike, it doesn't make the organization sound humane. It sounds like Fremont is not being represented with an organization with the high character standards that Fremont should have. We've heard the complaints. We've read the stories in the paper. We've seen the newspaper. We've seen the television reports. And each time we have the question in the back of our minds, what's going on out at the Dodge County Humane Society? The people of Fremont believe it's time that we need to have the city investigate what exactly is going on out there. And all we want is just to allow our voices to be heard so that the problems, the complaints, the issues can all be fixed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Gabrielle Baker, Gabryel Baker. I live at 2227 East 12th, Fremont. I am a former employee at Dodge County Humane Society. I worked there December of 2017 to May of 2018. You guys say animal control contract. I believe that is not getting followed as well. We got told by the director as employees that we were no longer going out on animal control calls unless they were in a person's hand or they were brought to us. So we were not going out to save animals that were hit by vehicles or running around. And that right there is breaching the contract. I do feel like there needs to be an investigation because there's a lot of things going on that needs to be looked into. The animal contract, especially because she is not following that contract. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nuria Arba, N-U-R-I-A-A-R-B-A-U-G-H. I live in 1117 East 6th Street in Fremont, Nebraska. I am very sad for everything that's happening right now. And I'm sorry for all of you, but I just want to tell you about my own experience with the Humane Society and their director. I recently adopted a dog, and I had a very, very good experience with him. Tamar, the director, she was very nice to me. And every time I went there, I went unannounced. I went several times. Every time I went there, either her, the times that she was there, or her workers, her co-workers, were cleaning every single time. I mean, it's not like they were cleaning because I got there. I went unannounced. The day that I picked up my dog, I picked her up the day before I was supposed to. I just went over there and said, can I please have it? And her co-worker called her and said, yes, I'll be right there. And she came and let me have the dog. Like I said, I know that a lot of things are happening here, and I am very sad for that. And to me, I am an animal lover, so I put animals like a part of my family. But I just wanted to say my own personal experience. I know everybody's different, but this is what happened to me. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessica Knapp, 524 East 4th Street. And this is our experience with the Humane Society. Austin and I adopted our dog Bessie from my daughter and son-in-law. On the paperwork, it did show she came from Dodge County Humane Society, she was also spayed on that paper. Bessie had no health issues that we were aware of, but a couple of weeks ago, I noticed spots of blood around our floor on our home that tracked Bessie. This was both worrisome to both of us, our whole family. So we called the vet, and got Bessie in immediately. After the vet gave Bessie an exam, she stated that Bessie has no spay scar and is actually just having a heat cycle. Austin and I were both very confused with this finding because the Humane Society doesn't adopt cats or dogs without them being spayed or neutered. Austin told the vet he was going to get a hold of the Humane Society to see if he could correct the situation, considering $180 had been given to the Humane Society for the adoption of Bessie. Austin called the Humane Society every day for 3 to 4 days, just to be told that the director was not there to talk to him. And finally, on the 24th, Austin received a phone call back from Tamar Reed. Austin spoke to Tamar about the animal clinic's findings, and Tamar asked Austin to bring Bessie to the Humane Society where they would take her themselves to Arlington to be checked out by their vet. Neither Austin or myself were comfortable dropping our dog off to her so she could take our dog to the vet to be checked out. Austin told her he would meet her in Arlington with our dog. Tamar was clearly irritated by this and sternly told Austin to leave the house immediately to meet him in Arlington. When Austin arrived at the pet hospital, he parked next to Tamar, just out front of the clinic. He got Bessie out of the car on her leash. After standing outside for a while, a vet tech walked out of the clinic. Tamar then told Austin to hand Bessie over so they could perform the exam. Austin waited outside of his car for over an hour. No one from the pet hospital asked Austin anything in regards of our dog. The only time they came out to speak was with Tamar. No one was allowed within the pet hospital due to the COVID-19, so Austin couldn't go in, ask how things were going. After an hour or so passed, Tamar confronted Austin, asking him where our son-in-law was. Austin didn't see why that was irrelevant in Bessie's exam and told Tamar he was working. Tamar then told Austin that since our son-in-law wasn't present, Bessie now belonged to the Humane Society, our family dog. Tamar said she was taking Bessie from the vet and taking her back to the Humane Society where she would sit for 3 days, not knowing what was wrong with her. Tamar then walked into the pet hospital where not one employee were allowed, came out with our dog, loaded her up in the Humane Society van, and left the premises. That's our story. And that's not including the emotional part, I kept all that out. And this is just a day's worth. This is not the 3 other days worth. Thank you for hearing me.
My name's Brian Bayless, Bryanbehles. I live at 1812 East 5th, right off the drainage ditch. I have called the Humane Society several times because there are muskrats in that ditch. I was told several times that I have to catch them. First off, I ain't gonna touch a rodent. That's not my job for living in the city and everything. And my neighbor lady has a bunch of cats. And I had called because the cats were running around in my garage, this and that. Whoever I talked to told me that I had to catch the cats. First off, I'm deathly allergic to cats, dogs, animals in general. If that cat was to scratch me, I'll end up in the hospital. Why ain't they doing their job? And I appreciate you guys, some of you guys, paying attention to everything everyone's saying up here. Thank you. Have a good evening.
My name is Wendy Pete. I live in Omaha. I'm a resident of Omaha who has ties to Fremont through animal advocacy. I won't repeat the details of the case of Cinnamon that you all are familiar with from the last time I spoke, and nothing was done. You all have been made aware of new details of Cinnamon's case in the past 2 weeks, and I feel as though Cinnamon and others deserve to have this review of the animal control contract because it's not being done properly. Please vote yes, and please make sure that there is truth and transparency with the animal control contract, because tonight, well, over these past 6 months with Cinnamon, I've seen what some of the problem is.
My name is Rita Blanchard. I live at 2020 East First Street. 2 experiences with the Humane Society. I was coming from Omaha, below 0 wind chill, cold, overcast, and windy. Several dogs were tied out to the trees on the right side of the building, jumping and pulling and jerking at their chains. No staff around. I attempted to adopt there. I went there and there's 2 at the desk and 1 standing up. The 2 sitting at the desk wouldn't even speak to me. The younger one standing up asked if she could help me. And I told her I was looking for a dog. And, oh, we don't have any. Well, you just got a bunch from out of town or out of state 2-3 days ago. Oh, they're gone. And I said, well, if I leave my information, will you call me when you have more? Oh, yeah. So I left my information and then they tell me to call back and check. And I never did get a dog there. That was my experience.
My name is Amanda Comstock, AMANDA, COM, STOCK. I live at 2811 Nebraska Avenue here in Fremont. First of all, I'm a little angered that I need to be addressing this issue again. I myself have been at past meetings. I had proof of misuse of funds from the Dodge County Humane Society that were submitted to Fremont Police Department, which were all lost or misplaced. I am a former office manager at the shelter. I have witnessed volunteers being turned away. I have witnessed school programs being turned away. I have witnessed animals being euthanized. I have witnessed, as an employee, getting told not to go pick up strays, not to go pick up roadkill. So when you sit here and say that you don't have a say in day-to-day activity at that shelter, what exactly is the $8,000 going to that you pay them a month? Because this city is confused. If you're paying them for services, then we need an investigation showing us where the money is going and what they're doing with it. Because what we see right now, we don't see that. They bought a new van in 2018. December of 2018, I have the paperwork. My name is still listed as a driver on that van, and I have not worked there since January of 2018. This past Christmas, I got a phone call on Christmas night from Fremont Police because their alarm was going off. Where's all the updating at the shelter that this lady's getting paid for? This is a mess. We need our community safe from stray animals or aggressive animals. We need the animals cared for. We need to be their voice, and this needs to be a serious a matter to all of you guys, not just the community. Thank you.
My name is Jessica Lobrand. I'm from Arlington. However, I am representing a story from Joyce Marino. The story is about two female pit bulls, a 4-year-old Gia and a 2-year-old Keela. In September 2018, both dogs ended up at the Dodge County Humane Society after a gate was opened at the dog's residence. Neither dog had past violent behaviors. Gia was used as a support dog for the owner's son. Tamara refused to release the dogs back to the family, stating the dogs were going to reside in the dogs were not going to reside in Dodge County. The dogs were held at the shelter for 216 days. After 7 months of the dogs being there, Tamara stated Keela bit a Midland student and had to be euthanized. However, no verification of medical treatment has been found. Tamara told the family that the vet did not allow to be present during the euthanization. Keela's remains were also never returned to the family. The family had found many different rescue facilities and adoption places to house the dogs. However, Gia was placed in rescue in Lincoln by Tamara. Thank you.
Any other comment?
My name is Gloria Yerger. I'm in Ward 4 and I reside at 2318 East 5th Street. I am an animal rights person who cringes over improper care and mistreatment of animals. It appears to me that in the past, those who were elected to represent the people of Fremont apparently did not seem to care what the citizens brought before them. History has shown that when anyone has tried to speak out on Humane Society issues, they were ignored and nothing was ever done. Tonight, I stand before this current body of 9 elected officials and ask that the Lord's Spirit will fall on this meeting and all the people involved, and your hearts and minds will be open to truth and what's best for the people and the animals they love and care about. I'd like to ask this council to take action to ensure that the DCHS is in full compliance with the terms of its animal control contract. To that end, I will not present a list of potential violations, which I've brought to before, because those who have personal experience are offering the record for themselves and are willing to testify to them in court. But make no mistake, it is with great emotional stress that we all stand up to confront and speak to these heart-wrenching issues. It remains my understanding that the state places primary responsibility for animal control with the city. The mere fact that the city contracts with someone else does not alleviate the city from its obligations. Many concerns have been raised, and perhaps it's the Humane Society Board who is primary at fault for not dealing with these issues. Regardless, there appears to be contract and animal treatment issues that the city must look into. Therefore, I ask that this council form a Citizens Advisory Board to address these issues. I'm confident under its contract that DCHS must maintain animal-specific records if the city doesn't require proper reporting. Then I don't understand how the city or this council can be assured that its agent is fulfilling the requirements of the contract. Lastly, I would like to note that high-tech video surveillance cameras were gifted by Debbie Durham to monitor proper animal care, but apparently no one, including Debbie Durham, the Humane Society Board, has been told they have no business looking at them, or anyone else is allowed to view recorded footage. They do keep it for 6 months. Matt Schott has access to that, but he has to be given permission. In closing, I would ask that you commission, and you already have, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments in the council chambers?
Are there going to be vote-ins?
That's next.
My name is Jonathan Paul. Address is 1149 North Broad Street. I have two occurrences. One, I have been in there when they wouldn't allow people in the back. All the times that they used to let people into the back to go visit the dogs, visit the cats. Why has that changed? I have to ask that. Another time I was allowed back there to go visit and see the animals. When I was back there, I noticed that the dogs were covered in pee, covered in their own urine. I ask you this quick, simple question, and I'll be done after that. Even after the one lady who's mentioned that the dogs were euthanized, Humane Society. I have a degree in wildlife and fisheries. I have worked with animals essentially completely all my life pretty much, other than a few other jobs I've done. But my career and my lifestyle has always been around animals. The Humane Society, how is that fair to animals to be covered in pee, covered in their own urine, covered in poop? How is it fair to an animal to be euthanized? That is not fair and that is not humane. Thank you.
Thank you. There, guys. Susan Collins. There you go.
Susan Collins. I live at 1313 North Lincoln here in Fremont. All of you should have received my email. A couple of you have gotten it a few times in regards to our interaction with the DCHS back in January of this year with our dog Bo. Specifically in Exhibit A, 3A, says that the DCHS will communicate with dispatch on any animal cruelty type situations. That is what she claimed was going on with our dog. She claimed that our dog had no food, water, or shelter. However, I have video proof that she drove by 3 different occasions through the day in her personal truck. She never stopped. She never came up. We have a camera specifically on our dog pen because we don't want anybody messing with our dog. And she did not come up to our home and did not call the police department to come out until after she had seen that all of our vehicles had left our home. We really feel as citizens of Fremont, we were taken advantage of by the DCHS director specifically. She's the one that I have on camera interacting with the Fremont Police Department officer that came. This can't go on any longer. I said in January, it's going to keep going. She's going to get the wrong person and they're going to be able to rally people behind her and make change. And it really needs to happen. Fremont was my home before. I moved 10 years ago. Sadly, my husband refuses to make Fremont our permanent home now and looks for residents outside of the county just based on this one issue and the way that he has been treated in that. Thank you for listening, and don't forget the dogs and the people.
Autumn.
Actually, this is Rhea Mechke. I didn't know how to log out of my niece's account. I have to say I have a client that lives or works at the Humane Society. I can't go into details because of HIPAA, but I have asked her numerous times, because she is a vulnerable adult, how she feels about the Humane Society, if she's seen any abuse going on. And she would be very upfront and honest with me, and she has not seen anything. She also claims, or I've also talked with her staff that goes with her. She works there 3 days a week. They are also mandatory reporters of the state. So they do need to report if there's any abuse of humankind or animals to their boss. They have not seen anything. It just concerns me that she can't go to work because she feels unsafe because of everything that is going on that she sees on Facebook. So thank you for your time. I do appreciate this.
Susan and Autumn, if you could take your hands down, that would be great. Sarah Furness.
Hi, I work at the Humane Society, and my name is Austin Filter. And what people have been saying has been really untrue, and it's really hurting the employees and staff there about all these people just coming out and saying that, oh, we took their dogs, which is completely untrue. Because I know my boss would never do that, and I know none of our employees would take advantage of any citizen here. Because we see it as we take care of the animals, we do the best to take care of them as much as we can with what we have. And I just don't think it's right that people are just accusing us of everything when they don't truly know what's going on. They don't work there every day. They've never volunteered there. They're just basing it off of what other people say, and it's completely wrong. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other comment from the public? (720-0551).
West 21st Street. Thanks, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, good. This is Bertha Bang. I am a resident of Fremont, Nebraska. I reside at 340 West 21st Street in Fremont, Nebraska. I am a past board member of the Dodge County Humane Society, and I would like to thank you, Council, for voting to put together the Citizens Advisory Board. I would like for there to be more transparency and truth between the public and the Dodge County Humane Society. During my time on the board, I had trouble getting it, and I was a member of the board. So I wanted to give you my sincere thanks for voting to put this together. Thank you.
Thank you. Angel Filter.
I'm Will Furness from Dodge County Humane Society. And I would just like to say that I'm a current employee there, and I've seen firsthand that we do take calls and such, and we pick up dead roadkill and everything like that. So all these things that we don't do that is simply just not true.
Thank you. Any other public comment? We'll close public comment.
Mayor, this
Yes.
Pat Sullivan. Mr. Yerger, we had some discussions in regard to some materials that you wanted part of the record, but we didn't have a consent, and that was essentially the narrative and some of the documentation with respect to the dog Bessie. And trying to keep track of what has been in and what has been out has been somewhat difficult. Have you been able to get that into the record, or where are we at on that?
It did reach us. Go ahead.
My understanding is that the clerk has received that material was disseminated to council members, and it will find its way into the public record, not into the packet material that was distributed pre-meeting, but it will be made part of the public record and maintained in a file where it's accessible, but just separate. And if the clerk has any different opinion, I yield. That's my understanding. And if we need to offer that specifically for receipt of the record formally, then I would make a motion to do so.
Okay. So there is a motion to receive the information that we received actually by the clerk midday, roughly.
Was that yesterday?
No, it would have, yeah, it would have been.
And just a point of clarity, Mr. Yerger, that had the consent to allow it to put in the record, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Jacobus.
I'll second Councilman Yerger's motion.
Ready? Cast your votes.
Yerger,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Jacobus,
Yes.
Lake Band,
Councilman Legman.
Yes, can you hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Bechtel,
Yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
McLean,
He's trying to say yes. You're still muted.
There was, somebody else had a complaint that didn't get filed in time. They wanted to add it.
Yeah, that's enough. I think you're live now, Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
All right. Any other comments in regards to items 4 and 5 by the council?
Mayor, from a procedural standpoint, and it very well be my own fault, I'm not sure where we are, but so just as a matter of caution, I think it would make sense to take a revote of the resolution and then the amendment to clarify that it's been approved, given that we kind of backtracked.
Councilmember Yerger, comments before we go that direction?
Well, I could do both. I just want to, again, thank the council members that allowed the public input tonight. I thought that was really important to hear what the public had to say and give an opportunity to weigh in on the issues before the advisory board looks into this matter. And with that, I would re-entertain the motion to approve the amended version of the resolution that was discussed earlier in the meeting.
Councilmember Ellis.
I second that.
Ready? Cast your votes.
Lake Band,
Yes.
Jacobus,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Yerger,
Yes.
Bechtel. Would you like
Yes.
to abstain, Councilmember Jensen?
Yes, please.
Jensen is an abstention. Councilmember Bechtel,
Yes.
Councilmember Coons,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Motion
Yes.
carries 7-0 with 1 abstention, Mayor.
Next item is item number 6. Receive a report and discuss additional funding for the Southeast Beltway project. In your backup, you have several documents from the state of Nebraska, and starting with the initial background, taking it through the schedule of where it's at and where it's headed. Approximately probably 12 days ago, we received notice or a call actually from the state basically saying that bids were received. There was 3 bids on the project. Approximately 61 million. Bid number 2 was 76 million. Bid number 3 was in the low 90s, 93 million. Initially, when we started this a long time ago, the initial draw was this was going to be 26 million. Then they came back, probably would have been the first year Susan was on council. They said it was 40 million. Then they came back and said we'd be between 46 and 50. And if it came in at 46 or 50, we could still do the project. So that being said, it came in at around 61 million. They have done some of the pre-work, and the reason they did that pre-work for the project is, number one, they expected the bids to come in at around that 50 million range. So some of that pre-work was done because if the trees are in place around between June and August, there's habitat that would be in those trees. And so they had to remove the trees before June so that the habitat would not get to the trees so they could keep the project moving. So that's why the trees were done and that work was begun. The challenges that we're having are twofold with the cost. The flood last year did a couple things. Number one, it tied up all of the contractors last year to do repair work, emergency repair work for these projects. So all the jobs that were on the burner for last year to be done were bid out, and our contractors are extremely busy. So and it's supply and demand, and with supply and there's a lot of it, the pricing goes up. So not saying we're getting a terrible price here or we're getting a terrible value. I'm just saying that the prices weren't as competitive as they thought they would be. So that's, and a lot of that is due to material cost that's no longer available because a lot of that material was used for the floods and the emergency repairs. What we're talking about here is dirt and sand and a lot of the material that has to be used for the project. So that has escalated those costs because, again, a lot of that dirt and that fill and that material is going to have to come from, it's going to have to be hauled in. Western Sand and Gravel probably overmined. Not that they didn't have the right, it's their land. But because of the mining that they did of their mineral rights that they own in their property, that's a considerable void that has to be filled. And that void wasn't there when the project was first estimated. So that's an increase, and that's not something you can go back and say, well, you did this, so you have to do this. You know, it's just, it doesn't work that way. We met with them. They actually had a consultant in. They were able to lower value engineer it before they came to us. And they were able to drop about 3 to 4 million off the project. The state is willing to absorb somewhere between 10 and 12 million of that shortfall or long fall to try and get the project done. But that does leave somewhere between 8 and 10 million that the city would need to, that we've been asked to try and come up with to keep this project moving forward. We're not making any decisions tonight. It's just All I'm doing is bringing the information for you so you have time to think through it. It will be on the agenda at the next meeting. But we have talked to our partners, our community partners. We have talked to Dodge County, and they will be going back to their board and asking for funding. We have talked to Fremont Beef. We have talked to, and Fremont Beef is willing to help, and they've and they're working on that as we speak. We have talked to Holstone Farms, and we have talked to Lincoln Premium Poultry. All three of those processing plants, even though they have a lot on their plate with everything going on today, see the value in the project. They understand how important this project is and the need for it to move forward as soon as possible. Based on conversations, I'm thinking our share as a city probably would be somewhere around 5 million. We have met with Jody, and I believe she's on. And she, and you do have in your backup and in your information, some funding of where she has dollars earmarked that would allow us to do it, this project. I have asked the state if we're going to do anything that we would have to do it over a 3-year period. I actually asked for 4, but we landed on 3, that we would take a third and a third and a third, similar to what we did to the large payment. And they are agreeable to a third and a third and a third. So with that, Jody, if you could just go over the funding piece, just so council has those numbers, and then we'll open it up for questions. I will tell you that we talked in detail about putting the project on hold. If you put this project on hold and maybe talk the contractor into holding their price, you might be able to go 3 months with the same price. If you put it on hold and go a year, you rebid, and the state really felt like the bids would come in somewhere in that between $80 and $90 million range. They really feel if this is a project, and as important as it is to the safety of the area in South Fremont and to the economic viability of Fremont, now's the time to do this project. So that's a little bit about waiting and delaying and going out for bid. If we wait 2 to 3 years, more than likely, we'll never see the project done. So with that, Jody, can you just give a little overview, and then we'll open it up for questions, and then this will be back on the agenda, I believe, next Tuesday.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Mr. Mayor, this is Jody Sanders, Director of Finance for the city. In your packet, the very, very last page, whenever I'm asked, well, what is our fund balance? What reserves do we have available? I always point to the last page of our statement of position, or what you might refer to as a balance sheet. And on this very last page, we see where our fund balances are. I've identified 4 possible sources to get us to the $5 million. You can see that the unassigned fund balance in the general fund, I'm pointing to it, you can't see it. The general fund balance, the unreserved portion is now at 7.8, excuse me, 7.9, I believe. Let me see, I apologize. 7.9. That is after you consider the amount that had been set aside for other capital projects, and then we still have 1.3 million in the immigration ordinance defense fund. And so looking at that $7.9 million, that represents about 41% of our general fund operating expenses compared to last year. If we were to take $1 million of that, it would leave us with a 36.7% reserve, and the minimum that you should have is somewhere between 16 and 20% in your general fund reserves. That's an amount that is not obligated for any other purpose. Moving on to the second column, letter B, in our sales tax fund, the portion of the sales tax that's for street improvements, with the amounts that we have left in that fund, we could take as much as $1 million from that reserve as well. That's already a special revenue fund. There's no real reserve targets for those other than what's in your succeeding years of your capital plan. Your street fund in the next column over, C, it has $8.8 million in that fund right now, but if you'll recall, we have $4 million set aside for the new street department, the street department's share of the multipurpose building. So I'm recommending perhaps 1.5 million could come from the street fund reserves. And then in the second to the last column over where I'm showing column D, that's in capital and special projects. It's actually the special assessments fund. Excuse me. This is the fund where when we're doing these projects that will be assessed, when the assessment dollars come in, that's where the money comes in. Previously, the costs for these projects were paid out of the sales tax street improvements fund of 2058, and that's the fund that would bear the cost of the projects. But then when the assessments would come in, they would go into the special assessments fund. So even though that fund balance, one might say, well, that should be only for special assessments. Based on that former practice, we don't do that anymore. We make sure that it balances evenly, but it does find itself with a reserve of about $1.5 million that is just sitting in investments right now, earning money, that we could afford to take 1.5 of that to get to the 5 million. And again, these are just suggestions from reserves. Another option could be to increase the amount of our bonds, those highway allocation and pledge bonds. That would be, in my opinion, much less desirable, because then you're kind of hamstringing future projects. We might have to take those bonds out longer, or obviously the repayments would be higher if we increase the amount that we were bonding. And if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Jody. Any questions for Jody? Councilmember Jacobus.
You had mentioned about the funds A, B, C, D. And in regards to the street improvements, does that alter, or will it help push us or force us to reconsider or prioritize things that we've already got on our schedule for capital improvement funds? And how does that affect us in the future for the next 3 years with any street projects that we have on the 2 and 6 year plan? Not the ones on the 1 year, but extending out in the future years. How does that affect that?
So that's one of the beauties of having a 5-year capital plan laid out already, is we can look and see what were we planning on using current year revenue and what were we planning to use reserves for. And the amount that I've recommended there is an amount that has not yet been obligated for a project that's within that fund right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Either for Jody or myself? Yes, the bid actually was extended. The bid award was extended about 35 days, which gets us to, I believe, between May 23rd and May 26th. We would be bringing this in front of council for consideration at our next meeting. Councilman Ellis.
So what are the commitments that we're looking for from our partners? Do you have dollar amounts there?
The other 5 million would be the whole. Between them, I mean, we ask for the moon and they go to their boards and they're in the process of doing that as we speak.
Will we know that by next Tuesday?
Not sure that we'll know an exact amount, but at the end of the day, I think we're going to be, I think we're at a point that, you know, when you look at the amount that we'll know what the county's going to give because they're talking about it tomorrow morning. Or that it will be an item that they're going to discuss. I don't know if they're going to make any decision tomorrow. As far as the others, the hope is that we could gain 5 million from the other partners. Any other comments? With that, thank you. Again, a difficult situation, but this evening, but thank you everyone for working through all of the issues and getting us to the end. So with that, I would take a motion to adjourn. Councilmember Jacobus.
I will make a motion to adjourn, sir.
Councilmember Yerger.
Second.
Cast your votes.
McLean,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Bechtel,
Yes.
Yerger,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Jacobus,
Yes.
Legman.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Meeting adjourned. Time is 8:14 p.m.